How long does it take to get a table in your restaurant at the moment?
We open the reservations 28 days in advance, so 4 weeks.
It's just a month.
Exactly. And they fill up, very, very quickly. But we do it that way so that, it's not, you don't need to, if you want to come in the next couple months, you can. You just need to be persistent.
Someone who's never been in your restaurant, what 3 words would you use to describe it?
The 3 words questions are always the hardest.
New York.
That's 2.
Is that 2?
Can we call that 1 word?
New York. I think collaborative. I think what we stand for is that we work as a team. It's a restaurant that is driven by the kitchen and the dining room. It's not just an expression of a chef. It's an expression of the 2 of us and our whole team. It has a sense of place. I think it's important for us that you're in New York, you're in this historic building, you're overlooking Madison Square Park, Flatiron Building, and what's on the plate, on the table, needs to make sense with New York, I think. So we work with, ceramic artists to make plates, we work with glass blowers to make glasses and decanters, we work with metal workers to do champagne buckets and serving trays.
Like New York, for a long time, New York was this melting pot, right? And the cool part about living in New York was you could get everything in the world simply by going to a distributor or like any one of the little neighborhoods that's kind of a microcosm of a different country. But the sacrifice there was that at the high end, at like the 3 Michelin star level, every restaurant had a sense of place in like Tokyo or Piedmont or Paris. And as we got to be very fortunate in traveling around the world, we went to all those places, and there's something really special about having a meal in Tokyo that it wouldn't make sense to have it anywhere else. And so that's kind of been a part of our endeavor, is to, like a local cuisine is where the ingredients of the region and where the culinary history kind of intersects. And so we're pretty excited. Right now, New York is finally old enough to have enough history where we feel a local cuisine can actually start to take root. And so we're kind of a part of that group that's trying to define what that is.
And when you think of New York, most people think of like just like Manhattan, like the concrete jungle of Manhattan. But when you go a half an hour north, you hit farmland, and there's farmland until you hit Canada. There's no other really big city in New York. It's just New York City, and the Hudson Valley is one of the best growing regions for produce, and we're on the Atlantic coast, which is one of the best waters for seafood, and it's a pretty special place. We did a book. It's called I Love New York, and that has really inspired us a lot because we traveled all around New York State, and we were surprised by the diversity of products and the quality of farmers, and so that kind of really has influenced us a lot.
So I think if there's 3 themes, it's definitely the dining room kitchen thing.
I have one more. Are you going to bring one more?
I was going to bring one more.
Okay.
I'll bring one more, and then you can tell me whether. So the dining room kitchen, the kind of New Yorkness, and then I also feel like this. We try to pay as much respect as we can to like the more classic elements of what fine dining was. We're forward moving, and there's definitely a modern sensibility to it, but we love kind of like the classic elements of luxury that used to be more commonplace in some restaurants, whether it's in the approach to service or tableside presentations or in the techniques used in the kitchen. And what were you going to say?
Miles Davis.
Right, so
Okay, well, but based on what he also said, it's like, you know, I think dining at this level needs to be for sure an experience, right? Needs to tell a story, but at the same time, you can never forget that it just needs to be delicious. You know, like no matter how much thought you put in, or how cool the story is, or the technique, but in the end of the day, if it's not really, really delicious, it's all worthless, in our opinion. And yeah, it's in a way, it's funny that we have to talk about that, but I think it needs to be said.
With food and wine as well, like, you know, with wine pairings, it's not just about showing the coolest wine. It needs to be an awesome wine, you know, like, and that's sometimes lost with.
And sometimes we work on a dish for 2 months, 3 months, and like it's a super cool idea, and the technique is really interesting, and we worked so many hours on it. But then sometimes after 3 months, we just need to, you know, we need to be willing to scratch it. You know, if it's not delicious, and maybe at some point that idea or all that work that we put into that will benefit us somehow, but sometimes you just need to say, you know what, we're on the wrong path. But so Miles Davis, 8 years ago we got a review from the New York Observer, local newspaper, not necessarily known for food reviews, but they gave us 3.5 stars out of 4, which was way too good, way too generous for that time. But one of the lines was, "I wish this place would have more Miles Davis," and we were like, "More Miles Davis? But that's cool, but what does this mean?"
They're like, "We like jazz. That's awesome."
So then we researched. Not right away. It took us like 2 months, and it just stayed with us. And then we researched Miles, and we came up with a list of 11 words. We read biographies, and we listened to interviews. We listened to his music, and we came up with a list of 11 words that were most describing him. And the list and the words were forward-moving, endless reinvention, cool, collaborative, light, fresh, and so I don't know. And there's a few more, but we looked at the list of words and we're like, wow, this is really inspiring. And since then, whenever we make a decision, we look at this list of words and we say, okay, are we in the right, you know, are we doing the right thing? Does that make sense with these words? These words hang in our kitchen and they become our mission statement. And even through the years, we realized how Miles was such an amazing musician. How with every new album that he brought out, he created a new genre of jazz. And you know, we celebrated the 40-year anniversary of Bitches Brew at the restaurant. And Bitches Brew was the album that he, for the first time, introduced electronic music into jazz. And that album, at first, didn't get any good reviews, but then it has become one of the most important albums of all time. And so when we make changes in the restaurant and maybe it doesn't get received right away so well, we go back to these articles and we motivate our staff that, you know, sometimes it takes time for people to really get, you know, what it is. So it's been really inspiring.
What would you have done if you weren't a chef?
If I would not be a chef, I would have been probably a professional cyclist. Yeah.
Put a Swiss on. He would have made watches.
But we were just chatting to Filippo L'Astorina from Central, and that sort of thing on your left was his description of Peru, and the thing in your hand was how he described the landscape of Peru and where they get all of their inspiration from. So where do you get all of your inspiration from? What inspires you when you're putting together a dish?
You know, it's New York. We have, you know, a history of over 300 years in New York. People who come from all over the world to settle New York and brought their culinary history. And then, but we're also, you know, you think of New York as like this concrete jungle, but when you go 30 minutes north, it's farmland until you reach Canada. And you know, in New York State, there's only New York City as like the big city, and otherwise it's just farmland. The Hudson Valley is one of the most amazing growing regions for produce. We're on the Atlantic coast, which is the best ocean for fish. So we're inspired by the product. And you know, also the farmers, because it's been settled mostly by Europeans early on, and they also brought their farming traditions from way back to New York, and so we have amazing farmers, we have amazing produce, but also we have this rich history of New York City. Well, we want to create an experience where you feel like more like coming home than going out. You know, the room itself can be intimidating because it's such a big room, and you know, we use nice things, and it can be a bit intimidating. So we have to work very hard to make the experience feel very homey, to feel comfortable.
How do you feel? How do you react to all of the speculation that you're going to be number one this evening?
I haven't heard that.
Word on the street.
No, I'm not gonna, you know, not gonna go down that road. You know, we're in the upper part of that list, and 50 restaurants in the world. There's 10,000 restaurants in New York. You know, like in the world, being one of 50. I'm very proud.
And you have this background working with Danny Meyer, who many people would say is the greatest restaurateur in the world. What do you think? Is there anything you've taken from that experience?
For sure, you know, he has definitely influenced us. The way he looks at things, the way he puts language to things.
In what way?
I think he just has been really good in like putting words. I don't think anyone has before really put words into this experience, like put language. He makes it very easy to understand the hospitality. We'll work with Danny for like 8 years or so. So of course there's an element, you know, that he has inspired us. Nomad, in fact, is on the list from 50 to 100.
Is it?
We're really excited about that.
We were discussing the sort of intimacy and sort of personal touch that you bring to your guests. Is it true that you Google them before they eat there?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
We Googled you before we came here.
No, listen, I think, you know, people can always take an extremist reaction to things like that. We always approach everything with a modicum of moderation, and, you know, there's things that, you know, someone is celebrating. People are, with a restaurant like ours, not necessarily as forthcoming. They can be intimidated, and maybe they're not sharing things that they actually want us to like acknowledge. And there's people that are celebrating something, and they haven't even told us. But we can, if we have just a little bit of information, we can take an experience and make it more personalized. And you know, we have like 85, 90 guests. We don't have that much time to Google each one of them, right? So we just spend a little bit of time just trying to figure out. We really want every experience to be unique. And we like to treat people not just as another cover, but as a human being, as an individual that's joining us. And we derive such pleasure out of connecting with people, and we only have a few hours to do it. Like, and I hope this doesn't come out the wrong. It's not just for you that we do that. It's for us as well. It's more satisfying. You know, if I'm going to spend 4 hours serving you, I want to connect with you as a human being. Otherwise, what am I doing? I'm just slinging food around a dining room. That's not that satisfying. But,
So it's an intelligent approach.
yeah, and the people that come into the restaurant are normally pretty fascinating people. And so, you know, it's like we get to host the most badass dinner party every single night with the most unbelievable guest list in the world. And I like dinner parties. So
what do you cook for your dinner parties? Do you cook?
I invite chef.
No way.
No, we're really, really close. So when we have dinner parties, it's normally us hosting it together.
And what do you cook for yourself?
I found that people like his food more than macaroni and cheese. So it's better to bring him along.
My guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Cherry Garcia ice cream.
Whole tub and a teaspoon.
Yeah, but no, you know, after a while you love just simple food. Good ingredients, but just simple, you know, a roast chicken or a braised leg of lamb.
Carbonara.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
That's a thing of joy.
And so every year, like this year for my birthday, my dad came to New York, and it was me, my dad, his wife, and Daniel. We had dinner at my apartment, and my dad's wife and Daniel were cooking together, and she was freaking out for like, she's like, "Well, this is ridiculous. I have to cook next to him in your kitchen." And so we had, we had some caviar, which was nice, and then he made a lobster carbonara. What did she
Not
make?
any old carbonara.
She made normally it's just a regular carbonara, but it was my birthday, so I got a little special food. Oh, and she did the bruschetta.
Yeah.
So where do you guys love to eat?
This restaurant in Frankie's in New York, also Franny's. I know those are two similar restaurants, I guess. The restaurant's really close to like the little Korean neighborhood in New York, and there's a couple of places there that are open late, and they have amazing food, and pizza too.
And in London, do you have any favourite spots in London to eat?
I haven't been to London enough to go back to the same place multiple times. I don't know about you.
Mammoth coffee.
You know,
We love London.
we love London. This trip has been the trip where we've just fallen in love with this place. I don't know what's happened this trip, but we feel so connected to it right now. And
When did you arrive?
Saturday. You know, we like one of our favorite experiences was 2 years ago. We traded restaurants with Alinea
Okay.
for a week, where we
Yeah, it should be good fun.
Yeah.
We're trying to get to you.
and so like that experience of bringing the restaurant somewhere else is something that we love.
These two are scheming. I see a scheme.
We're going to his restaurant tomorrow
I was
night.
actually, funnily enough, last night, someone said to me, who's in the, someone said, last night was finished quite late, and then they said, what's the predictions, 50 best? I said, you know what, I have no idea. And I was just at reception about to leave, and I typed in 50 best. And you're right, okay, it came up yesterday.
Oh, right.
And I don't have
That
the
is stroking my head.
that's what I've just been doing, speculating at work, and then I went to check the computer. Nice to see you guys. See you tonight.
See you later.
Brilliant.
We're here for a little bit longer. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.